Hey you, it's Ebony with We Are Ideas, and this is part 2 of the interview with Nicole Honeywell. Okay, so what did you think? Last week we learned a lot about the work that she's done, how she came to be a drag queen. We learned a little bit about her dad and her mom, and anyway, I want you to listen to part 2. Again, leave questions and comments. We really want to embrace honest conversations, curious conversations where people can come and share and talk and communicate around things that I think will bring communities together instead of bringing them farther apart when needed, when possible. Okay, so listen to the second part of this interview, comment, questions, and then we'll meet on the other side. Let's bring people together.
Gone over these things a million times with the people that I speak to, and sometimes I'll derail in my entire purpose of talking about drag to talk about inequality across so many things, like, you know, just the color of skin. And these people are so deeply embedded with this narrative. It's like trying to unwrap the same gift, and every time you take off another layer, there's more wrapping paper. It's ridiculous.
That's right.
And it's all ingrained from birth. It's literally, they're raised to believe this nonsense. I was so fortunate that only half of my parental unit was in that mindset, because I can't imagine if my mother had the same opinions as my father, what kind of a piece of shit I would be. And then my father, thank God, learned over time, and he started to develop sensitivity, but oh my God, the things that I'd have to go through where he was upset with a white and a black person in a relationship on a commercial, or, you know, why is every store on black people now? I'm like, what the fuck talking about? Like, imagine how many decades that people of color were not involved in anything with television or movies. This is the natural progression and coming of age of people who have been marginalized and pushed into the background to be able to have visibility, to have the success they deserve. Why does it matter to you?
Talk to me a little bit about what it was like when you first started drag. What inspired it? What happened? What was going on?
I had been dressing up in my mom's clothes for years, and I always liked playing these characters. And it was about being funny and fun and ridiculous. And I always wanted to take it somewhere else, but I was afraid if somebody saw me that they may not understand. And finally, years later, I had decided to dress up as my favorite character, my icon, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, who is the be-all, end-all of iconic 80s property characters. And I had a friend who was really good at prosthetics and makeup and hair, so I went to her, and she did me up top to bottom as Elvira. I had done it once before, but it wasn't that great. But the second time I did it, I went to work, and I'm at the cash register at work, scooping change out of the drawer. It's like one of the first times I'd ever worn long nails, and I'm trying to desperately to get these quarters out of the drawer to give this change back to this person who was already uncomfortable with me checking him out because I was in costume. But it was Halloween, you know, it's just having fun. And this guy comes up to me and he goes, "You really look like Elvira. Would you mind coming out to my club later and just making an appearance and taking pictures?" And I'm like, okay, I have no plans. Sure, why not? Don't panic. But I told everybody the real Elvira was here today, and I'm like, why would you do this to me? So I walked in, and I'm bombarded by people and pictures and talking and autograph this and sign that and everything else, and I was just overwhelmed. But I was enjoying it because I knew how to play Elvira. I knew her voice and her character very well. It was great. So then everything's over, and he comes up to me and he goes, "This is for you," and he hands me an envelope, and I'm thinking, like, he gave me $100 I think. It was $1,000 in cash, and I was like, holy shit. Like, you know, at the time, that was a lot of money to me. So, I mean, it's still a lot of money now, but I was like, oh my God, I could get used to this. So that was all I did that year. But the next year, I started selling myself around as Elvira. Like, would you like me at your Halloween party or your opening event or this? And I started getting gigs. And then eventually, I was making like 10 grand in a month doing Elvira, just 1 month out of the year. And I'm like, this, I could get used to this. This is great. So I thought there has to be more to this than just Elvira. How do I make this something else? And I had grown up on with Jim Bailey, who is an incredible drag illusionist who looked just like the characters he played, like Judy Garland, Marilyn Monroe, and he sounded and sang like them, Barbara Streisand, and he was a very celebrated character actor. He wasn't called drag queen at the time. He was on the Carol Burnett show. He did the Super Bowl halftime show in drag. So I looked up to him and other characters, and I thought, okay, well, he created all these personas. And then I also knew of characters like Lady Bunny and Coco Peru, classic drag queens, Varla Jean Merman. So I started looking up drag on the early internet days, and I found that there was bars and clubs locally that did drag shows. So I started going out there and watching, and then I started dressing up and going to the club in drag, and I created Nicole Halliwell. And eventually, after months of persistence, I got a booking in a show, and that's where it started.
Where did Nicole come from? Like, how? Tell me.
I loved girl groups growing up. The Spice Girls were my be-all, end-all of entertainment, and then Elvira. That was the two that I absolutely adored. So I thought, I can't use a name like Sharon Needles or something ridiculous that I couldn't put on a billboard. Like, if I ever wanted to be famous, I had to have something that was going to be adaptable. So I took Nicole from Nicole Scherzinger of the Pussycat Dolls, who I also adored, and Jerry Halliwell of the Spice Girls. So it was Nicole Halliwell. So that was... When I was 14 years old, I was in a library in South Florida, and this older man came up to me, very effeminate older man, and I'm like, stranger danger, he didn't say anything to me, he just came up and he's like, hello, and I'm like, hello, and he goes, I know something about you that you don't know, and I'm like, what does that mean? And he goes, it doesn't matter. He goes, I just want you to know that your life is going to be great and everything's going to be okay. And he goes, nice to meet you, my name is Jim. And that was it, and he left.
How scary, but also interesting.
I mean, at the time, if I didn't say my age, it wouldn't have been scary. It's because we automatically put it into predator context.
Sure.
But his intention was to say, you're gonna be fine. And I remembered him to this day. I'm sure he's gone now, but.
Varla.
Billie Eilish's Summer Vacation.
Jasmine.
Do you ever feel like a plastic bag?
This part of the makeup phase is the blend and fix. So like now that I'm putting it all together, I'm just kind of going through the motions here and then looking at what needs to change, what doesn't have enough eyeshadow, where do I need to fix it. It's also strange because I'm doing my makeup without my usual lighting in this room.
What's the usual lighting?
There's an overhead light that goes on. I mean, this is fine. It's just I'm just not used to doing it without having that secondary light, because you kind of learn the balance of how everything looks, and then you go and...
How many shows do you have right now?
Like,
any point on average?
Before the political backlash, I was doing 24 shows a month. I was on more planes than airline stewardesses were. There was a point where I was like a pinball machine, where I was like Louisville, Lexington, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, California, New York City, Orlando, Delray, Fort Lauderdale.
And enjoyed it?
Loved it. I love traveling. I love taking my act on the road and showing people that I am an absolute nutjob. And that was my joy. And somebody took it away. But right now I have 6 active shows this month, and I'm doing between 6 and 10 shows a month, which is nice. A lot of them still get canceled because people are afraid to come out. But 6 to 10 shows a month is nothing to sneeze at.
I was going to say, is that bad?
No, that's good. That's good. And with the way that I've structured my business, I make great money. I make great money. I have done things in drag and created a salary for myself in drag that most people would not even get in a full-time.
Hello, darlings. I'm just hanging out here with my biggest fan. Want to get one of your own? Check out the exclusive new Elvira merchandise at creepsville.com. I'll see you there, and until then, unpleasant dreams.
And talk to me a little bit about like the business side. Forget the drag piece of it. All of this incredible creative license that you've designed for yourself. Side note, the dresses, the shoes, all of the graphic work that you have actually done yourself, all of the wigs, impeccable makeup, beautiful hair. Your dress is fantastic.
Stop.
No, for real. Like, can we just be like?
I
keep it a
appreciate
buck?
it.
My
Yeah,
God.
thank you.
All of that aside for a moment, talk to me about you as a business person.
So we'll just go through the list. There's Lydia Dietz, Mrs. Doubtfire, Ginger Spice, Baby Spice, Baby One More Time, Britney Spears, Edna Turnblad, Tracy Turnblad, and Glinda the Good Witch. So these are all kind of the character wigs that I play for more recent stuff. And then all the costumes are either in the rack over there or they're in these bins on the side over here that I've got a ton of. And they're all labeled. So this will say like Katy Perry for the Jungle Roar costume that she had for a period of time. So lots of stuff like that. The more expensive costumes and stuff kind of sit over here. These are really interesting ones. They've got a lot of detail and sparkle and stuff, and they're fun to play with. I also absolutely love cool fur coats. And then there's a ton of shoes I have in every color for different outfits and things. I love hot pink. That's my favorite color. So I try to put things in hot pink. And then boots. Lots and lots of boots. I have tons and tons of boots. I have a long history in business. I grew up with my father, who manages himself as an entertainer, my mother, who owned her own business, and also managed other businesses. And then I got into the retail environment where I was a store manager, district manager, and you learn a lot about how businesses operate, especially from a corporate scale, which is really impressive, especially if you know what you're looking for. Some people just get a job and they just kind of exist and do the motions. I wanted to know how everything worked. I wanted to do every position, every role. I wanted to know how to do anything and everything so that I could excel and then find new avenues. If I got bored with this, I could just shift over to something else. In the meantime, loving the Spice Girls, I also learned marketing and graphic design because I was making fan websites for them, and I loved how their product branding was and so forth. So I started learning Photoshop at like 15. So I had all these components that kind of work together. So when I finally decided, after years of doing drag in clubs and bars as just a guest cast member or a co-host or something else, I thought it's time for me to build my own business. The pandemic happened, everything shut down. I was doing marketing and graphic design for years for corporations and big companies like Best Buy and PetSmart and so forth. And I thought, what if I combined all the things that I do together into one big piece? So it was, I want to be an entertainer. I want to market myself. I want to take that business and be able to put it not just in Florida, but nationwide. And then on top of all these other elements, I have to find the path on how to get to the bigger picture, which is stardom. So in 2022, I was the official Pride spokesperson for Deep Eddy Vodka. And we had a campaign that they used for my tour. They sponsored me and gave me cool, fun stuff. And that was the photo shoot I did for them. And that was really fun. I consider myself like a different person from my Photoshop photos. No, I'm just kidding. Is it the same? No. There's an extra chin on me right now. So no, but yeah, this was my my ad campaign for Cocktails Fit for a Queen for Deep Eddy, and they were very kind to me. Great company, really LGBTQIA+ friendly, and they had no problem shipping ahead huge boxes of stuff that I could use to give away for my shows. So it's not just I'm a local in clubs, but I also have to market myself in a way that'll take me to television or movies or whatever else that there was that would come along with it. But I wanted to do it my way. I didn't want to do it in a way where you have to go on RuPaul's Drag Race, otherwise you're not visible and nobody wants to book you, and you have to do a death drop and a split and this and that. I said, no, I'm doing this the way that I know how, because when you try to be somebody else, it's not the same thing. It doesn't play out the same way. I had to be authentic to me. So I built this from the ground up. I started structuring and marketing and photo shoots and creating and doing all the things that I already knew how to do, but I was applying them to myself instead of doing them for other people, because I was designing ads for bars and so forth. And as you go through the motions and the process of learning about how people perceive advertising, you start to learn what your demographic is looking for, and that's what made me so successful in the shows that I started to produce on my own. So when I started to kind of leave the herd and move on to my own territories with my own judgment, I took all the things that I learned that didn't work in other shows, and I kind of fixed and reformatted the structure of what a drag show should be. And it was funny because when I did that in Wilton Manors, all of a sudden all the other bars and venues started to follow suit for what I was doing, because they realized that it just wasn't working anymore. It was very stale. So pandemic happened, everything closed down, and then I came back out of the gate was something new. I built the comedy show. I started selling it as an outdoor show during the pandemic. We were doing outdoor seating and socially distanced and the rest. And that went from 1 show to 3 shows to 5 shows to 5 locations to 9 locations. And then everyone was calling me every day saying, we want this in our bar. We heard about it, especially then because there was nothing happening. I was really one of the only few entertainment things that were actually happening that was available in South Florida in my area. So we had people driving from 30 and 40 miles away to come see the show. So it was a really good time to test it out. And then from there, it just became a snowball effect. Companies were hearing about my show in other states, or people would attend my show in other states and go, hey, I've got a location 3 hours from here in this state. Would you mind touring over here? Or yeah, so it came built into what it is now. So I've just kind of amassed all of this through my career and structuring myself and building the business model around sustainability with someone that's doing this on their own. It's hard when you take something that's zero when you have zero, because in the pandemic I had no jobs, I had no work, my savings was going quick, and I thought, how do I get this started? I took a chance. I opened a credit card. I started buying things because you gotta put, you gotta spend money to make money, the old saying. It's very true. So I put in as much as I could with what I could budget, and I just prayed for a return. And if it didn't work out, then I would have been in serious trouble. But I spent a lot of cash to get this off the ground, and thankfully here I am 3 years later with the pandemic, essentially 6 since I've left my job and went drag full time. But 3 years in, I'm very happy with how everything went.
What do you see for yourself going into 2024 as a business owner, as an artist, as an entertainer?
Restructuring again, taking it all apart. Every year I do this. I've been at it now for three and a half months now. I've been disassembling the entire business and seeing what's broken, what's not working, what concepts am I retiring, who is part of the business that's holding me back. I had to let go a lot of people in August, September, October because there was not enough on board who were willing to do what it took to get us over this hump. Because it's about the longevity. It's about if you can last, if you can hang on long enough to get over these slow periods, these humps, these political things. The best stuff is right around the corner. I have learned that every time I fall, if I don't get right back up right then and there and keep moving, I'm going to miss something great. Because I always look at it as one door closes, another door opens. It's very true. It's like it's the next thing that's coming. So when I do have something bad happen, like a show gets canceled or I can't work in a specific venue anymore, I don't stress about it anymore because I know that's coming. So I'm looking at that with all the optimism and saying 2024 is the year that I take apart the business, put it back together, cut my losses, and see how I can structure to be leaner until we come back around to the glory days of drag when we can sell shows without any having political or religious interference. It's all the narrative that people create around that nonsense. So and hopefully I've been right this far. Hopefully it'll continue to be.
Yeah. And you talked earlier about your sort of heart for making sure you're supporting other queens. Talk to me about that. Like, why is that important to you?
There was a point when I had broken up with my ex before I had met my husband that I was living alone in my apartment. I had nothing. And I was working my job. I had the bills paid, but I had nothing. And I felt very alone. And then I had gone to the gym and a fire broke out in my house while I was away and burned my house up. Gone. Everything I owned was gone. So then I really lost everything. I had no job. I had no money. I had nothing. And I was sleeping on my friend's couch. And every time I see a friend of mine who is going through that same struggle, I am immediately taken back to sleeping on the couch at my friend's house. And I'm going, I remember so vividly that it was so difficult and so painful to feel like I had failed or to feel like my life was over or how do I start from here? It's okay if you have a job and you can just slowly kind of go in the motions, but when everything's gone, I got fired from my job because I missed a conference call on the day that my house burned down. And I'm like, are you kidding me with this shit? It was very that. So I didn't know what to do. I just thought, this can't happen to somebody else. So it was the mix of being ostracized in drag when I had first started out because nobody wanted me around because they didn't want any new competition. And then also remembering those moments where I look at my friends and I go, I can't let this happen to you. Now, I can't help everybody, obviously, but I can't help everybody, but I can do the best that I can with the resources that I have available, whether it's giving away costumes to people that are just getting started, or, you know, someone's having a rough day, so I get them like a hotel room somewhere to get away from their situation, or, you know, giving people work and then like paying for a rental car so they can come down and get the work. I just try to make people's lives easier. Sure. And I feel like someday karma will repay itself, in my hope that I can. I'm trying to think of how to just word this that's in my head. I'm hoping that someday that karma will come back around and continue to give me the ability to keep doing this, because a lot of the times it's to my own stress and my own fault. You know what I mean? Where I sometimes help people to the point where I'm in a situation. So I'm hoping that someday things will turn around, where my business will come back around, where I can really do some better good with a little left over for me on the side. I don't know. I never expect karma to pay it back to me. Like, I don't do things to get paid back. I just do it because I want people to have a better life and a better quality of life. But at some point, I hope that I can
also benefit from that.
I don't know if even that. I hope that I can strike a point where in my career where I can feel more comfortable helping people and not feel like I'm taking away from the quality of my life, type of thing. Yeah, I'm not expecting like some universal reward. You know, I feel like if I ever asked for that, like I would walk outside and like a satellite would fall out of the sky and just. You know what I mean? Like, I don't ask for anything from the universe anymore. I sit here and wait for it to come around. Yeah.
Thank you so much.